Hi, everybody. So this is the third time I've tried to start recording this, and it's always kind of been confirmation for me that it's something I'm really supposed to do. When so many things interrupt, there's usually a reason for that. And I know it really is an important overall perspective that I want to share with you. And it goes way back in time. Not way back, but it goes back. And but basically it's about this year. This 2023, for the next 12 months, 13 months, is going to be really unbelievable. And how it shows up for you is going to completely depend upon your standing with the Father, where your roots are, the fruit that you are growing in your own personal tree of life, and or not. And it's kind of a culmination period in a lot of ways, and it goes back to 2017 is really where it kind of officially began. And that's based on biblical accounts and stories, okay? And this is what the Father showed me today. In 2016 and maybe even 2015, I began to feel a dramatic shift in the world. I started waking up to the fact that something is really not right. And spent a lot of time trying to identify what those things were. But in 2017, there were two things that happened. A lot of things happened in 2017, but a lot of things. But two major things were the solar eclipse across America, and the Revelation 12 sign. And so the Bible repeatedly says that the sun, the moon, and the stars are for signs and seasons, right? And so they're not to be disregarded. Now, back then, I remember, it just hit me that it was a big deal. It was a very big deal. I didn't know why back then, but I started to study on it, and found out then that there would be another total solar eclipse across America in 2024. And that's 7 years in between the two, right? And not only that, the form, if you map it out, the 2017 eclipse went diagonally across America, and the 2024 is going diagonally in the opposite direction. And that creates an X over America. And what we need to understand, and if you're not paying attention to the world, you don't see it, but we've been under judgment. And if you haven't been, as America, right, we've been under judgment. And that is culminating next spring. And do I know exactly what that means? No. But I know that is a 7-year period. And I know when I look around that certainly there has been upheaval and evil exposed and lies exposed. And really, our hearts have been exposed. And I'm not advocating the news, but what it's telling you is the hearts of men. What you see on the news is how we treat each other. It's who we've been. And it's all coming to the surface, and it's going to continue to come to the surface until it's dealt with, all of it. And this year is, basically like time running out on that. Like, this is it. Jesus said in the Bible, and I'm not going to give you verses because this is a study you need to do and look up. But he said, they were asking him for a sign of the end times, right? And he said, well, no sign will be given because an evil generation wants a sign. Why do they want a sign? So they can get themselves right, right? Before it's too late. Except for the sign of Jonah. Well, if you study Jonah, there was a solar eclipse involved in that. And he was sent to give warning that if they didn't change their ways, if they didn't repent, if they didn't straighten out, look at themselves, and get it together, then they would be destroyed, right? Now, he didn't want to do that, and he ran away, and he ends up getting swallowed in the belly of a fish, which you could say is a dissension, right? It's the same as being, Jesus said, man will spend 3 days in the heart of the earth, right? Jesus descended to hell before he ascended and took the keys of death and hell with him, right? And Jonah is a shadow of that. There was a solar eclipse when Jesus died. From 6 to 9 p.m. it was only darkness, right? There was a huge earthquake, devastating earthquake. Well, what's happening right this minute in Turkey? And do some research on Turkey and what Turkey really is in ancient times. So these things are adding up. And the point of it being, time is short, right? It's kind of a get it together or else time for America in particular. For us to realize what we have done and what we are doing to one another, where our hearts are. And some of us, and I don't know why, have been going through that and pushing through all that and experiencing all that already. But if you haven't felt the judgment that we are in, then it's your turn. If you've been hard-hearted up until now, those walls are going to come down. If you want to be saved, to go forward, to not have things go in the direction that they can go. Now, in Nineveh, they did turn around. They did repent. They did change their ways. And so that is hopeful, right? But we don't know what it took for that to happen. And I feel like I know what it takes. It takes the fear of God, right? The fear of being destroyed, the fear of misery, of living this type of life where every time you turn around, school kids are getting shot up and killed. I mean, in 2017 was also the Las Vegas deal. That was a big deal. I mean, you can say on one level, there's a lot of theater and evil intent around it. But it's serving the purpose of showing us who we really are, because Jesus said it's not enough to just follow the commandments. That's not enough. Do that. But he fulfilled the law. He filled it up by telling you that even in your spirit, if you hate someone, you have murdered them. That's how we have to take it back. So whatever you see, well, maybe it didn't physically happen to you. Maybe you haven't been shot. Maybe you haven't been murdered. Maybe your family member hasn't been murdered. But if you have spiritually hated someone, then you have murdered them. And this world right now, this time period, is showing us how we treat each other. And so I knew back in 2017 that Jesus was coming. I didn't know what that would look like, what that meant exactly. I just knew it was happening. It was going to happen. I knew that. I started having dreams back then. And one dream I had, I was on the Titanic. and this is years ago. I was on the Titanic. And it's like I had already been on the Titanic, right? I already saw that movie. And I knew what was going to happen. But the people around me did not. No one in the dream knew. And I was desperately running around trying to tell people, look, forget about that. This ship is going to sink. And a lot of people are going to die. So you need to come with me, get on a lifeboat, get out of here. Because this is going to happen soon. And every single person I told that to, without exception, ignored me. Every single person I told that to and tried desperately to save told me I was crazy, told me I was delusional, totally blew me off. And I woke up so upset thinking, what good is it to know what's going to happen if you can't convince anybody else? Right? And that was one of the first dreams that God gave me about what was happening or about to happen. And I tried to warn people about the pandemic. I've tried to warn people about everything. And there's only one person I know of that paid any attention to some of what I had to say. And it's frustrating, right? Because these things are not random. It's not just random coincidence that there was an eclipse in 2017 when the world went to hell. Okay? That's what happened. Look at the events since then. And 2024, which is 7 years later, which represents complete perfection or divinity. And and that every book, that throughout the whole Bible, it's the sign of Jonah, right? It's what happened on the day that Christ was crucified. These things happen. They're not happenstance. It's a divine plan. And we're just 99% of the people I know are completely blind to it. They pay no attention to it. They think it's doesn't mean anything. Oh yeah, well that's cool. Look at the solar eclipse. No, it's an omen. It has meaning. Everything has meaning. And you just have to realize and pick up on these clues as to what's happening. Now, there's a lot of other things behind what's going, exactly when. Oh, excuse me. When and how these things are happening. But the point is, what you need to know is that if you haven't humbled yourself, if you haven't sincerely, wholeheartedly gone to the Father and said, show me where I've been wrong. Show me what you're displeased with. Change me. Mold me. Save me from myself. Show me your way. Show me your love. Show me the difference in this hellish error we're in on earth, and what it can be with you in heaven. Because if you're perfectly fine with the way things are, if you can live in the world where people are killing each other left and right, and there's talking about wars that sorry, where hundreds of thousands of people are being killed for what? If you're perfectly okay with things the way they are, then you won't get to be in the new heaven and the new earth, because it's not going to be that way. It isn't this way. This world is passing away. Understand what that means. It means you can't continue the way you've been continuing. You can't keep going the way you've been going. Can't keep acting the way you've been acting, thinking the way you've been thinking, treating one another the way we've been treating one another. It cannot continue. And this is the year it has to end. So whatever has to happen to get our attention, those of us who God doesn't have our attention yet, whatever has to happen to get our attention, those things are going to happen this year. Because, and this is my Jonah message, okay? And I know it to be true. there's part of me that doesn't want it to be true because I've suffered through it. I don't want anybody to suffer like I have. But I realize I went through it earlier than the people around me to be a voice in the wilderness, right? Saying, make straight the path of the Lord, as John the Baptist. Because this is happening, like it or not. Believe it or not. And you can fight against it. You can ignore it. There's a lot of things you can do. But there's coming the time is coming, and it's not like a few years from now. The time is coming, the time is here, where everyone is going to be confronted with their own shit. And if you've never had that happen, you don't know what that's like. It's devastating to see yourself as you have been. And none of us are above the other. We've all been that. I mean, Jesus tells you that. I'm from above, you're from below. Where is below? And are you going to stay there? Because this is not only kind of a reckoning, a judgment, the end of the age. It's an opportunity if you take it, if you accept it, if you see the gift of it. And it's a gift. Because God could leave us in our misery. He could leave us down here killing and maiming and hurting each other, right? But He's not. And yet still it's your choice. Still it's your choice. So the whole world is under judgment. But in America, this year is going to rock our world. And how are we going to handle it? Where are we going to turn? What are we going to do? Because you can say you believe something. You can say you'll do something. You can think you'll do something. You can think you know something. But until you're put in a position to actually have to do it, to actually have to believe it, you don't know what you'll do. So I would say, put on your armor. I would say, if you're not awake, wake up. Wake up. Take your blinders off from seeing the big picture of what's going on. Nothing here is by accident. Nothing happening is an accident. And God is sending you people to warn you. He is sending you people to help you. These warnings are helping. I mean, if you saw a car coming at someone and they were standing in the middle of the road, would you not yell at them to get out of the way? Of course you would. And I see a car coming. And if you can zoom out, you should be able to as well. Because every trick the devil has, he's going to try this year. And your the only way you can survive that. There is only one way you can survive that. And that is through the Father. In John 17, Yeshua said, I and my Father are one, and I want the same for every one of you. Because otherwise you cannot stand against this world and the enemy. In a lot of ways, this world is hell. Right? How is hell described? Where there's what is it? Gnashing of teeth and crying and gnashing of teeth. Well, could it be much worse? I mean, I guess it probably could be. But recognize where you are. All the structures and the systems of this world are meant to keep you in that place of suffering, of pain, of misery. But Jesus has the key, right? He has the key. He already has the key to open the door to let you out. And he's just standing there knocking, right? That he stands at the door of your heart, where your love is. The door to love, which is the only way to the Father, because he is love. So if anything you're doing, saying, thinking, feeling, or being is not aligned with love, true love, not airy-fairy romantic love, but true love in that you, with all your heart, care about everybody else, care about what happens, want to give. Through your heart is the only way out. So all your spite and vengeance and anger and pride, you're going to lose that. And if you don't have love to fill that void, you're just going to be an empty vessel. So build yourselves up in love. Understand what's happening, because it is happening. It's already started. I mean, I see it every single day, more and more and more. I see all the things coming together to build the story of what's about to happen. What happens beyond 2024, I don't know. But I do know that this year is a major year. And that we definitely need to understand that. Be convicted of where we're wrong. Kill our pride. And get on board with turning things around. Because they're going to end, and we'll either, someone said earlier, we'll either be Lot, who fled Sodom and Gomorrah, or we'll be his wife, who turned around to look back and hang on to it. Be Lot. Flee from it. Flee to the mountains, as it says. Because for those who haven't already been through this process, and not a lot, but there are some of us who have, only so we can tell you. But if you haven't, it's not because you got spared in some way. Everyone will face it. The Bible tells you this as well. There is a judgment day for everyone. For every deed, for every word, every idle word. And there are no exceptions. Because this is the process, the spiritual process of growing up, of realizing and rejecting the evil we've been living with, that we've been accepting, that we've just been okay with. Being silent about things is being complicit. You might as well be going along with it. You are going along with it. The Father doesn't want you going along with it anymore, and He's going to make sure you understand that. It's just not okay the way we treat each other in this world. And it can't continue. And this is a year to show that to everybody. And like I said, part of me, this kills me to even say these things out loud. I don't want to bring any kind of hurt on anyone. I don't want to speak anything out loud to cause anything. But reality is reality, and in this world, this is the reality. It's not the way it is in heaven. But you can't get there until you go through this. So here, this is the refinement. This is the judgment where you learn right judgment, not your own carnal judgment, because it's wrong. You're wrong. 100% of the time, just if you're going on your carnal judgment, you're wrong. But the Spirit is here to help you. It's already here. It's already here. But you have to accept it. You have to listen to it. You have to follow it. And completely put aside your own agenda, your own plan, your own idea. This is a time, some people have said, the second Exodus, right? Which, if you tie all that back to what I'm talking about, makes perfect sense. So I had a friend that used to say, and this is 4 or 5 years ago, time is short. And he's right, because these things don't happen overnight. And it takes some of us longer than others to get it. But in 2023, February 14th, Happy Love Day, 2023, time is no longer short. It's here. And it has to be dealt with. Because this will not continue. Okay, that's all. That's all the preaching I've got. And, I fought this forever. I didn't want to be a preacher. I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't want to be a prophet. I didn't want to be any of these things, because I was fearful of the responsibility, but I've become more fearful, if you want to put it that way. It's not really fear, it's more of a reverence. I've become more fearful of not following the way I know to follow, of not saying the things I know I need to say, of not speaking out when I know that there's something the Father wants said. So regardless whether anybody hears me or not, doesn't matter. He knows who needs to hear it. He knows maybe it's just me that needs to hear it, that needed to be reminded of all that He's shown me in the past 7 or 8 years, of the journey He's had me on, of my refinement period, my judgment day. And that's okay too, because what I know is, for me, also my own personal refinement is closing out too. And I'm ready for that. And this is part of it. I'm ready for that. And I'm ready to move on to the next phase in my role, whatever that might be. And I know that I am moving on. I know that. Just the same as I knew in 2017 that those, quote, signs were not just coincidence or talk or, oh, fun day, let's go watch the eclipse. That they were very significant, and I knew it then, and I know, and it's been proven out to me in every possible way since then. So I know that what's coming up is equally, if not more, significant. And I also see a lot of people who don't have a clue. They still don't have a clue. And it burdens my heart. Because I love everybody. I love everybody. And I want everybody to wake up to the fact that this is not how we're supposed to live. And I think that's going to happen one way or another. And so my prayers are with everyone. My love is with everyone. My heart is with everyone. And as long as I'm here, I'll be here to help anyone who needs a friend or a hand to hold. Because I wish I had that going through all this. On one level, you have to do it alone. But it sure would be nice to have someone who understood, who could reassure me and comfort me through it. And I didn't have that. And perhaps that's because I needed to toughen up and become more independent. And I think that I'm positive that's the case. It was building me. Nonetheless, my heart is to help other people as they go through it. And that's the only reason I'm on here. That's the only reason. It's the only reason any of us are here. To help one another and to love one another. And we don't get that. It's time to get it. And the time is now. Okay. I love you guys. No matter who you are, where you are, or if anyone ever hears me. I love you. I love this world. But I hate the condition of it. And that is God's heart, right? He loves you. He loves this world, this planet. But he hates our spiritual condition because we've taken ourselves so low. We've fallen. And he's trying to pick us up. Lift us up. So don't fight it. Don't fight against that. All right. Y'all have a good day.